By the time I first reached The Last of Us's opening credits, I think it's fair to say I was already blown away. Its shocking introduction is without doubt one of the best ever created, and in this video I want to talk about why. What I like about the first few minutes of the opening is that they clearly and succinctly give you all the background information necessary. Joel's phone call suggests he's struggling financially.
Tommy, listen to me. He is the contractor. He's the contractor, okay? I can't lose this job. I understand. Let's talk about this in the morning, okay? We'll talk about it in the morning. All right, good night.
And the scene which follows as he wakes his sleeping daughter Sarah up also alludes to the fact he's likely a single father. The conversation between Joel and Sarah after isn't anything overly exciting compared to later events, but the fantastic voice acting and motion capture do so much to make the relationship between the pair feel far more realistic than other games which feature similar family dynamics. Sarah's inclusion is a clever one. Here we see the relationship between a father and daughter as it should be. It feels loving and, more importantly, it feels natural. Not too long after this, another father and daughter-like relationship will begin to develop between Ellie and Joel over the course of the rest of The Last of Us, but it takes a good while for that to blossom, and things between the pair are initially frosty. Depicting Joel and Sarah's relationship at the story's outset then works so well because it highlights the familial ideal the father-daughter relationship Joel and Ellie might hopefully eventually develop. Following this scene, Sarah wakes up to a frantic phone call from her Uncle Tommy.
Hello?
Sarah, honey, I need to get your daddy on the phone.
Uncle Tommy, what time is it?
I need to talk to your dad now. There's something...
Uncle Tommy? Hello?
Taking control of Sarah, you are then free to explore her room and the rest of the house, and given the shocking turn of events at the end of the prologue, this choice was clearly made with the intention of forging a connection between yourself and Sarah, thus adding emotional weight to the opening's conclusion. I like the birthday card and the message inside you can read, as again, it really helps make Joel and Sarah's relationship feel real. What I'm an even bigger fan of is what happens when you enter Joel's bedroom.
That victims afflicted with the infection show signs of increased aggression and...
Move everybody out of here now. There's a gas leak. Hey,
there seems to be some commotion coming from...
Get the hell out of here!
What was that?
There are three very clear stages of escalation during the early stages of The Last of Us's introduction. First, you witness the phone call between Sarah and Tommy, and in the bathroom you can read a newspaper about recent events. Worrying stuff, but it all seems quite abstract, quite far away. Next, you watch the news report in Joel's room, which ends with an explosion you can see from the bedroom window. Events are now starting to get a little closer to home. Finally, heading downstairs, you see police cars driving past outside and then watch Joel kill his first infected. As you continue to search the house, the distance between you and this as yet unseen threat very quickly decreases. It transitions from being at the other end of the phone or in a newspaper to the town nearby to inside the house itself. It's a genuinely fantastic method of smoothly ramping up tension. Joined by Tommy, the trio then begin to make their escape. Keeping you in control of Sarah for the journey to town works brilliantly. Indeed, as a whole, the section during which you play as Sarah, waking up alone in the house and riding in the back seat while the grown-ups talk up front, does a marvellous job of evoking a childlike feeling of helplessness, a lack of understanding of what's happening. Tied to this is the idea of Sarah reflecting your emotions within the game world. To some degree, you are going through the same ordeal as her. You don't have enough information to connect all the dots, and you're unused to the strange situation you find yourself in. I'd wager that for many, her reactions to what's going on may just mirror their own. Also, much like the three stages of escalation in the house, the drive functions similarly. You begin the prologue at home in a relatively enclosed space. The scale of events then expands during the car journey as you witness the ongoing devastation, but from a relatively safe space, and you're then forced to navigate the nearby town on foot as all hell breaks loose around you. This interruption by the hitchhikers is an important one.
Let's see what they need. What do you think you're doing? Keep driving.
I got a kid, Joel.
So do we.
But we have room.
Hey!
Keep driving,
stop!
Tommy.
Stop!
It demonstrates Joel's survival instinct, or perhaps even a ruthless streak depending on how you look at it. Mustering up the courage to shoot his infected neighbour earlier, to do what had to be done, I think serves a similar purpose as well, but this is the scene that for me really got that idea across. Him being alive some 20 years after the start of the pandemic feels far more plausible as a result, and both help contextualise, to at least some degree, Joel's brutality during the rest of the game, as there are definitely hints of him having a hardened edge during these opening few minutes. After a rather nasty car crash, you take control of Joel for the final section of the opening. This next stretch is essentially an extended, fairly linear set piece, and it's a very engrossing one at that. Something a lot of zombie films and games lack for me are scenes showing an outbreak as it actually happens. Many of them begin after most of the damage has already been done, which for me is the less exciting proposition. I'm far more interested in seeing the outbreak as it unfolds, rather than its aftermath, and the abundance of NPCs here, both human and infected, does a great job of showing you just that. What Naughty Dog does really well here is guide you through the streets using the design of the environment itself. You can see their mastery of this side of level design earlier on too. In the house, lights are constantly used to highlight objects you can interact with. For example, the newspaper in the toilet situated directly below the only light source in the room, or the phone screen lighting up the area around it as it rings. Likewise, they're also used to guide you through the house, whether it's the glow from the ever so slightly open door to Joel's bedroom, the light plugged in at the bottom of the stairs, or the desk lamp in the study. Navigating the streets, the petrol station explosion and NPC pathfinding both guide you right, the fire in a shop and the fire engine round the corner do the same, and finally the flaming car blocks off one route while Tommy gestures to another. No waypoints are needed, no prompts appear on screen, and yet you always know which direction you should be heading. It goes a long way towards keeping you immersed. Leaving Tommy behind to hold off a group of infected, there's a short chase sequence, again note the lights used to guide you in the right direction, before you reach the opening's final cinematic. As I'm sure most of you already know, it is incredibly hard to watch thanks to both the events themselves and the stellar performances by the cast. It's a raw, emotionally draining, amazing scene, which I'd guess left a lasting impression on most who saw it. Sarah's squeals of pain and Joel's glances of desperation towards Tommy I find particularly harrowing. We also mustn't forget that it was a very brave decision on Naughty Dog's part to include it at all. The death of a child is not something many developers would be willing to show, let alone in the opening 20 minutes or so of their game.
Oh no. Sarah. Move your hands, babe. I know, baby, I know. Listen to me, I know this hurts, baby. You're gonna be okay, baby. Stay with me. Alright, I'm gonna pick you up. I know, baby, I know it hurts. Come on, baby, please. I know, baby, I know. Sarah.
There's also one last thing I want to highlight here, the symmetry between the introduction's conclusion and this sequence near The Last of Us's finish. This scene in the opening begins with Sarah in Joel's arms, but ultimately ends in tragedy when they're stopped by a soldier, whereas this scene towards the end of the game similarly begins with Joel's daughter, so to speak, in his arms. However, on this second occasion, he manages to get some redemption of sorts as he kills Marlene and leaves with Ellie before she can stop him. It's a really nice touch to have everything come full circle, but with a different daughter and a different outcome. The Last of Us's opening is tremendous. It is well paced, it ramps up tension in a way that ensures you never feel like you can relax, and it uses its characters incredibly well, backed up by fantastic performances by the game's cast. If you've not played it, I cannot recommend it enough, and if you have, hopefully what I've talked about during this video will help you see it in the same light as I do, as one of the best introductions in all of gaming. Thanks for watching the video, boys, girls, and grizzled survivors of a terrifying pandemic. If you enjoyed the video, do consider liking, subscribing, and letting me know your thoughts. And with any luck, we'll meet again soon.